I'm James. Welcome into the football room. In today's episode, we're going through NFL draft superlatives. We're talking about offensive and defensive rookie of the year. We're going through our favorite day 3 picks, day 3 pick that's most likely to be a day 1 starter. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube by clicking the button below, and also make sure to follow us on Instagram at A to Z Sports Film Room and on Twitter at A to Z Sports NFL.
Welcome back, everyone. The football room is now open. My name is Destin Adams. I'm a little bit younger this week because I shaved before this episode. So I'm looking 19 again, but still Destin Adams, still an A to Z beat writer for the Indianapolis Colts and NFL draft analyst. Joined with me, as always, James Foster, who you're looking older than me this week, man. The facial hair does a number on me, let me tell you.
Man, I try to keep it a nice trim balance, but grows back about every 3 to 4 days, so I got to stay on it.
Yeah, every time I'm about like a month out from when my wife has anything scheduled picture-wise, she makes me do this, where I have to shave everything off and I look like a child, and I hate it. But
I wish I could just freeze, like find one state of like facial hair, head hair length, and just freeze it there. Like just come up with a look, trust my 28-year-old judgment, and just stick with that for the rest of my life. I would take that gamble.
No, I'm with you. Like, I mean, and we have things that like it feels like they should be able to do. I mean, that they literally have stuff to where bald people cannot be bald. That seems like a harder thing to fix than just stopping your hair at the perfect length. But we don't have that.
I think we gotta reach a different pay grade for that,
I guess. But if you came to the football room to talk about the NFL draft, I'm sorry, this week we're just talking about facial hair and hair length. But just joking, we are jumping in to more about this 2024 NFL draft class. The NFL draft is in the past, but there is still lots to talk about in this class and these players. Today, we are going through 2024 NFL draft superlatives. We're going to go through multiple different questions and highlight players that we feel like fit these categories. So we're just going to jump right in, and we're going to do some easier ones first. Some questions that are probably already going around, and there's going to be some ones later that may be a little bit more obscure. But James, who do you think is the most likely defensive player to win Defensive Rookie of the Year this year?
So I feel like this one was pretty easy, and honestly, the offensive and defensive rookie of the year, superlatives are a little bit like a foregone conclusion, just going with the chalk pick. So that's why we're also going through kind of long shot or sleeper picks for those awards. But I think most likely on the defensive side of the ball is Laiatu Latu, UCLA edge rusher that went 15 to the Colts. Traditionally it's been a pass rushing award. And when I look at the top 3 edge rushers in this class, Laiatu Latu, Dallas Turner, and Jared Verse, I think that Latu has pretty clearly the most NFL ready skill set. I mean, you would have to go back to, some of the best pass rushing edge prospects in recent memory, like the Bosa brothers, to find an edge rusher that has a similar ability to win with their hands coming out of college. I think he's a player that is just going to feast on like the bottom 30% of NFL tackles. You get someone in there that, doesn't really know how to block a cross chop and is going to be a step late getting depth. I think he could really coast to like 10 sacks as a rookie. And, I think that Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, obviously Turner has the most upside, but he's kind of just a long arm inside counter guy at this point. Jared Verse, I feel like his rushing style is a lot more conducive to pressures than sacks, because I don't really see him getting as many dominant wins with his bull rush early. So I think Laiatu Latu is a safe pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think, and I just wrote an article about this for A to Z actually, that I think Latu, I mean, he's favored on just about every betting site you can look at if you're into those kind of things. But I just think, like you said, his skill set is just so pro ready. I think he's also going to the best defensive line of the three in terms of he's not going to face a whole lot of double teams early in his career in comparison to the other guys you just mentioned. And just to like give some numbers to what you said, that this award is often gone to the edge department. 4 of the last 5 defensive rookie of the years have been edge rushers. So those last 5 have been Will Anderson in 2023. 2022 was Sauce Gardner at corner, the only corner on this list. 2021, Micah Parsons. 2020, Chase Young. 2019, Nick Bosa. And then 9 of the past 14, so spanning all the way back to 2010, have come from the defensive line as a whole. So it's hard to say that like it is an edge rusher award, but like that's where the facts are. Like it's hard to win this award unless you just go out and just do some crazy stuff. I mean, Sauce obviously had a top 5 type corner season when he won it, going just outside that 5-year span to Shaquille Leonard in 2018, nearly leads the NFL in tackles that season. So there's reasons that those guys can get it. It's just harder. And like you said, I think Latu going into a defensive line with DeForest Buckner, with Samson Ebukam, and Kwity Paye, like there's just going to be a lot of talent on that line to where you're not going to be able to just take Latu away as comparison to other rookies. So I definitely think, like you said,
Don't forget about Dio. Don't forget about Dio.
And Dio, but I'm starting to think more and more that Dio is going to slide interior, especially on pass rushing downs. Like I really think he's going to be opposite of Buckner on the interior on pass rushing downs a lot this next year. So we'll see how they format things this next year for sure. Now, still staying on the defensive rookie of the year, we're going to go long shot. So we both with the same person for defensive rookie of the year, but who is your long shot to win this that you're watching, your sleeper?
So my long shot is Johnny Newton for the Washington Commanders. I think that the preface to that is that he has to be okay from a health standpoint. I think, obviously that was part of the reason why he fell in the draft lower than a lot of people had him projected. Got a foot injury that he's been dealing with this offseason. But I just think kind of in a similar sense, they have less firepower on the edge in Washington, but with Daron Payne, with Jonathan Allen, I think that, he has a chance to come in on passing downs, not be the center focus of attention as far as the offense's protection. And I just think that he has the quickness and the hand usage already as a rookie to come in and just exploit slow-footed guards. There's, kind of the same thing with Latu. I think that, rookies are going to come in and against the best competition, against the Zach Martins, Tyron Smith, like these people are going to be able to handle rookies for the most part. But when you get into week 8 and about 30% of the starting offensive line is like out with an injury and you've just got some backups that have, 100 career snaps come in there. Like that's where I think players on the defensive line, rookies, can really come in and boost their stats. And I could see Johnny Newton having like a really efficient 10-sack season, and maybe the edge rushers don't get off to a fast start and he's able to sneak in and get defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, so I was between 2 DBs for my sleeper. I'm going to go with KoolAid McKenzie for New Orleans. I think KoolAid got the rough end of the stick where him being viewed as a high floor comp made people believe he didn't have a high ceiling. And I think that hurt him a lot throughout this process. I think KoolAid goes to a great situation where he's going to get to be opposite of Marshawn Lattimore, be that number 2 corner. And he's in a division that just doesn't have a whole lot of star power at receiver. The Buccaneers have some talent, obviously, but outside of that, there's not going to be a lot of guys that are going to test him or in that division necessarily as the number 2 receiver. I think he is going to end it with really solid coverage stats. I wouldn't be shocked if he takes the ball away at a higher rate than we saw him at Alabama. I think he's a guy to watch in that second round, and of these corners, I think goes into a great situation to warrant some early accolade type of success for sure.
I'm interested to see how that cornerback room shakes out. Like they have 4 players that I think are kind of deserving of playing time and not
I
enough
like Paulson.
spots. Like
I do like Paulson.
right, because Paulson Adebo really came on last year. Like he had a stretch of just some insane games with like I remember there was a 3 or 4 week stretch of last season where he had like 4 interceptions and 10 pass breakups, something crazy. Obviously Marshawn Lattimore, if he's healthy, is a stud cornerback one. And then you've got Alontae Taylor, who I thought had a great rookie season playing on the outside. They moved him into the slot last year, and he was one of the worst corners in the NFL. So I wonder how that kind of shakes out. I could see them maybe going with KoolAid over Alontae Taylor in the slot and benching Alontae Taylor. I'd like to see him get another shot outside, but yeah, that'll be really interesting. So moving on to the offensive rookie of the year. I don't feel like there's a lot of analysis needed unless you have a different pick than mine. Mine was Caleb Williams for the Bears. I just think, talented number 1 pick, caliber of quarterback prospect that's going into an uncharacteristically good situation for a rookie quarterback that's the first overall pick. He's got 3 capable receivers, really good offensive line. To be determined on the offensive coaching staff, but I just think he has all the tools, all the weapons that he needs to put up a pretty easy offensive rookie of the year campaign, unless there's, some crazy injury or something.
Yeah, I think it has to be Caleb Williams is most likely to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Like you said, great situation he's heading into as long as he stays healthy. And, I mean, this award, even more so than the Defensive Rookie of the Year, is just very chalked up to whoever the best rookie quarterback is. Like, you're going to get it if you have a decent enough season. It takes a pretty historic season to uncrown a quarterback, and Puka Nacua couldn't even do it last year. So that tells you something. But so then, who do you have as your long shot to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, James?
So my long shot, and this is the only one where I went and consulted the betting odds just to make sure. But I went with Jonathan Brooks, Panthers running back out of Texas. I think that, in this scenario, I'm assuming that all the quarterbacks either disappoint or just have underwhelming seasons. And in that case, I think that, Jonathan Brooks has the offensive line in front of him with, all the investments that they've made this offseason and free agency, just getting some maulers up front. Ike Ekwonu still has his issues in pass pro, but he's going to create some movement in the run game. I think Jonathan Brooks is going to have a lot of space to work with. And assuming that he can get back to at least like 80 to 90% from the ACL, I don't know if he's going to be at full strength, but like he's got the vision, he's got the patience to just, take what the blockers are giving him. And I think he could put up a really productive season. I expect them to run the ball a lot just with how their offensive, skill set is kind of set up.
So for long shot, I still went a quarterback, and it's a long shot because I had to talk myself into it. But I think I'm gonna go with JJ McCarthy. The reason for this is I have a similar vibe for this that I did when Kenny Pickett goes into training camp with Mitchell Trubisky, where to me, if you can't win that job, like that tells you more about the player you just drafted than not. And if JJ McCarthy can't win the job from Sam Darnold, like the Vikings have more issues than they think they have right now. That's how I view it early. So then I view JJ McCarthy playing pretty early in his career. And I think he is probably going into the second, if not the best offensive situation of any of these rookie quarterbacks if they're starting early. I think Chicago is the only spot I have over that from the four should have been first rounders. We don't have to talk about the other 2 right now. But I think JJ McCarthy has a lot of talent around him in Minnesota. I think that roster is ready to win games. So if that team goes in, competes for the NFC North this year even, and he's the starting quarterback, puts up solid stats, takes care of the football like he did at Michigan, I could see him walking away with that award and people just being all shock and awe that JJ McCarthy wins it. But like that's somebody I'd watch for sure just because of playing time and system.
Yeah, he would have to I don't know. It's like almost win it by default because maybe I'm just biased because of the Michigan offense, but it's hard for me to see him putting up the passing volume to beat out Caleb Williams if they're both having really good seasons.
Yeah.
But
Minnesota's not going to have that
if
running game though.
Caleb,
Minnesota's not going to have a Michigan running game. Aaron Jones at this point of his career,
yep,
you could argue is better in the passing game than he is in the running game.
I don't know, man. Aaron Jones is pretty solid, but
I like him. I like him
still,
overall. I'm just saying.
I'm with you in that. I think their receiving talent, outweighs the rushing weaponry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, if he, like you said, if he doesn't, if he isn't able to beat out Sam Darnold for the job, then that is pretty telling, I think. But could definitely see it. Could definitely see it.
There you go. Well,
Michael Penix would be another sleeper if he wins the camp job.
If we're calling sleeper someone fell asleep and let him start, I guess. But we'll see how it works out. But moving on here, we're going to go away from a little bit of these favorites and early draft picks, and we're going to say most likely day 3 pick to be a day 1 starter. So that's rounds 4 through 7, James. Who's the one guy that kind of comes to your mind?
So the most likely day 3 pick to be a day 1 starter, I went with Cedric Grey for the Titans. Had the Titans as one of my losers. I'm kind of just making up for all the losers from last episode, giving the Panthers some love, giving the Titans some love here. I think Cedric Grey has a really good chance to be a day 1 starter, partially because he's a good linebacker prospect, but also because there's just a black hole of nothingness of talent in the Titans linebacker room. I think Cedric Grey is a player that can come in and wear the green dot, as everyone says, and does a lot of really nice stuff in coverage. Worry about him taking on blocks and just playing through contact and all of that. But I think as far as the mental aspect, which is going to be the main barrier for a lot of rookies getting on the field, I believe that Cedric Grey will be able to get the playbook, understand his reads and keys, and be on the field early. And if he's not their starter, they're relying on a lot of questions as their green dot player.
So I may have stretched the most likely to start, but this is just a guy that it's similar to what I said at quarterback, that I think even though he goes on day 3, I see a lot of talent on film, and the room is so thin where he's at that I'm watching him pretty closely, and I think he's a guy that I think could start day 1 that you guys should be watching out for. And I'm going to say Tyrone Tracy Jr. out of Purdue goes to New York. Obviously, Saquon goes to Philadelphia this offseason. He's basically competing with Devin Singletary, and I think both of them are good pass catchers, but I mean, Devin Singletary had a decent year last year running the football. He's by far his best season. Obviously, gets a decent deal out of it, so good for him. I just have a hard time that a guy like Tracy, who just has more juice out of the backfield, a better when it comes to cuts in and out. I think a better between the tackles guy, even if he is a converted receiver. I'm excited to see him in that offense. And if you're a fantasy person watching this, I mean, Tyrone Tracy's a guy that I've been watching in a lot of my leagues for sure.
Yeah, totally with you on Tracy. I think there's some other day 3 running backs. One of them I'll get to later that you could make a case for. But yeah, I really like Tracy. He should not have fallen to the 5th round for sure. He's got that dual threat skill set. Like you said, a lot better running between the tackles than you would expect. He's so creative out in open space, finding rushing lanes, getting out of traffic. Big fan of Tracy.
I think he
next one
too much as a gadget guy too early. I think that's why.
Yeah, no.
I think people looked at him, saw the converted receiver skills, saw that he has a proven track record as a catcher, and they're like, man, if we draft this guy, or do we want to take a strictly pass catcher in the 3rd round? And it's no, I really think this guy can develop into a 3-down dude. So I'm excited to see him in there, and I think New York is just a situation to where, again, I just wouldn't be shocked at all if he takes that job day 1 from Devin Singletary.
Totally with you. So next section, we had rookie matchups that we're looking forward to the most. I don't know how you did this. I kind of stuck to like divisional one-on-one matchups just because they're going to happen twice. But you could have it for any team, I guess, as long as they're going to play each other. So who is your rookie matchup that you were most excited for?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy just the fact of all the quarterbacks. Like for the first matchup, like I just used Caleb Williams because if you look on the Bears' schedule, like Caleb Williams is going to get to go against just a lot of young quarterbacks this year. Like not only are you going to be able to like see them in comparison. Obviously, JJ McCarthy comes into Minnesota, and like I said earlier, I think there should be an expectation that he starts earlier than people expect because of the situation he's going into. And I think being able to see a guy like Caleb Williams early in his career, just in comparison to a lot of those guys, biasly, I'm pretty excited to watch Caleb Williams versus Anthony Richardson next year whenever that gets put on the schedule. But Bears and Colts are happening next year. But if you just pull up Chicago's schedule, wherever you're at home right now, you'll see that Caleb Williams is going to get to be compared to a lot of quarterbacks on the same field this year. And I think that's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you could honestly do that for all the quarterbacks, and I would be with you. For me, I had to narrow this down because there were so many that came to mind, but I think the one-on-one matchup I'm looking forward to the most is Malik Neighbors versus Quinyon Mitchell, receiver for the Giants, cornerback for the Eagles. Because when I think about their skill sets, like them going up against each other is really strength on strength. What Malik Neighbors does best is number one, his ability to decelerate and like sink his hips, cut off comebacks and curls and stop routes. And then number two, his ability to accelerate, run, stop and goes, double moves, even just slot fades. He's so explosive off the line of scrimmage. And then if you watch Quinyon Mitchell's film, a lot of it is just like breaking on stop routes from off coverage because of the role that he played in Toledo's defense. But then you also see his elite recovery speed. You saw at the Senior Bowl, he had one of the best Senior Bowl reps that I've ever seen against Roman Wilson, where he just synchronized his movements perfectly with Roman Wilson's stop and go route. I just think a lot of the routes that Malik Neighbors ran at a high level, at least in college, were the type of things that Quinyon Mitchell was the best at defending. But Malik Neighbors is such an elite, explosive, dynamic receiver. Obviously, he's going to get some wins. I just think that'll be a really entertaining back and forth matchup. You've also got the element where Quinyon is still kind of adjusting to playing press coverage. Showed that he could kind of do it at the Senior Bowl, but we haven't seen a lot of tape of him in press. And Malik Neighbors is a player where I feel like that's the biggest question is his ability to fight through contact at the line of scrimmage. So I think those two players going back and forth, they've got a lot of complementary strengths and weaknesses in a way. So definitely excited for that matchup.
Yeah, and then the one that kind of came in second for me to Caleb Williams, we took different approaches on this, but I really like the fact that Brock Bowers lands with the Raiders only because we're going to get to see him against Kelsey twice a year for the foreseeable future. Obviously, on draft day, I thought the pick was a little bit confusing just because of their other needs. But like for Bowers' start of his career, we were going to get to compare him on the same film twice a year to Travis Kelce, who arguably is this generation's greatest tight end of all time, depending on where you draw the line for Gronk's generation. I think that's really exciting to be able to watch. And hopefully they get him a quarterback to be able to utilize him to his full capabilities. But yeah, we'll have to find out where that goes. Next one here is we're just going to say our favorite day 3 picks. And I think we could both do 2 players.
For the 4th round, I didn't do this just purely based off of who got the biggest steal on my board, which for 4th round picks would be the Chiefs getting Jaden Hicks. But I just got to repeat my praise for the Raiders' 4th round pick to Camry Richardson, cornerback out of Mississippi State. I really think that he has high level starter traits. Like he has, this could be a Tariq Woolen type of player who the college tape isn't as clean as you'd like it to be, but he's by no means a project. And then just comes into the NFL and he's got the size, he's got the movement skills where he can translate immediately. And, I think that the thing with Kamryn Richardson is, he runs a 4.34. He's 6'2. He's got long arms and he goes in the fourth round. So you think that he is this project that's just, getting beat constantly. Really, he's one of the most assignment secure and like smart, aware, and zone coverage corners in this class. Barely ever misses any tackles. I think he had maybe the third lowest missed tackle rate of any corner in college football. He just on tape doesn't look comfortable playing the ball. There's so many plays where he's in perfect position and he just can't locate it in a tight area. If he can fix that thing, which is kind of a skill set that can be difficult for DBs to really improve on, especially moving from college to the NFL. But if he can improve there, I think he's got so much upside. And, you really don't see him get beat that often on tape as far as allowing a lot of separation. Had a bad play against Malik Neighbors, but he's one of the players that I've been kind of pounding the table for ever since I got into his tape. And I think in the Raiders cornerback room, he could carve out an early starting role and really surprise as a rookie.
Yeah, I was between a couple receivers for mine. I think Troy Franklin was the best value the Broncos got, but I'm going to go with just player and fit. I'm going to go Javon Baker to New England. Some people believe Drake May is not going to start early. I'll believe it when I see it personally. I think he's ready to play sooner than people realize. And I'm really pumped for Javon Baker to land with Drake May. Baker has a lot of big play potential. Didn't test as the greatest athlete, so people may look down on him a little bit in that sense. But I think he has inside-outside versatility. I really like them picking up Jalen Polk in the second and then coming back here in the fourth and double-dipping at receiver. I think both of them are going to play early. And I mean, if you've seen anything that Javon Baker's put out since getting drafted, like the kid is motivated and ready to play. And I think he has the talent to make it happen at the next level. So I'm excited to kind of see where Javon Baker goes as a rookie for sure. Going on to round 5, I'll go ahead and start with our favorite ones from round 5. I'm going to go where I ended up. I'm going to go Spencer Rattler to the Saints. I know me and James have different opinions here. Looking at the fact that Bo Nix and Michael Penix hear their name called in the first, and there's a 4-round difference between those guys and Spencer Rattler, still just is mind-boggling to me. I think Rattler has plenty of potential if you can make sure that the mentals are all correct in there for him, and he goes to New Orleans to where Derek Carr has to have a pretty short leash over these next couple of seasons, so I think it's pretty strong chance that we at least get to see him in these next 2 years. And I feel like the other young quarterbacks we've seen New Orleans try in the last few drafts have been very minimal type players that there wasn't much upside with. Like Spencer Rattler seems like the actual stab to try to get something late. It's the 5th round. Obviously, you can't ever bet on that as a long-term thing. But I think Spencer Rattler has all the talent in the world. So we'll see how that works out.
Spencer Rattler taken after Jake Haener last year, surprisingly. Yeah, that's kind of just how it goes with when you've got a limited number of teams that need a quarterback. Once there's just one team left, it's kind of like a free fall. So I feel like I think there was something that came out where there were a couple quarterback needy teams that had 2nd to 3rd round grades on Spencer Rattler. And then they ended up taking their quarterbacks in the 1st round. So it's like there's really only one team that was interested in him early in the draft.
Yeah.
So my 5th round pick, I kind of cheated because it's a combination of 2 players, but I'm just going to say the Seahawks taking the Auburn corners. They took Nehemiah Pritchett in the 5th round and DJ James in the 6th round. I think that these are 2 corners that have some red flags on their tape, but just so many high quality skills to be, locked down in single coverage. And I like the strategy of just taking both of them and saying one of them is going to end up being good. Like one of them has to be good. Nehemiah Pritchett's more of the explosive, linear, straight line speed type of corner, really physical and press, not as fluid changing directions. And then DJ James is just a magnet in man coverage, sticks so tight to route breaks. He's 175 pounds, moves exactly like you want a 175-pound corner to move. He's just so light on his feet, instant hip fluidity. Really like the combination of skill sets that they add there with the Auburn corners, and then you put those guys in there with Devin Witherspoon, Reek Woolen. I think they've got a really formidable cornerback room with some young players that have a lot of upside to develop.
Yeah, my other honorable mention for the 5th round was Muhammad Kamara going to the Dolphins. Loved that they double dipped at edge. Wasn't a huge fan of Chop in the 1st round just because I really think they could have used some day one production. And like my, I guess, hot take in this is that like I would not be shocked at all if Muhammad Kamara plays more snaps as a rookie than Chop Robinson. Like I think Kamara is ready to play in the NFL. And I think there's a little bit of coaching that still needs to be done with Chop. So we'll see how that all works out in the end. But love the pick of Muhammad Kamara in the 5th. I would have considered taking him in the 3rd personally if I was an evaluator there. But my 6th round pick, since you went ahead and already did yours, my 6th round pick, I am going to go with the Chargers taking Kamryn Vital out of Troy. The Chargers needed to walk out of this draft with a rookie running back. They signed some vets. That J.K. Dobbins is going to be in that room. Gus Edwards is going to be in that room. So Kamryn Vital may not have a lot of upside as a rookie in a sense, but like I think Kamryn Vital's arrow is pointed in the right direction. He's the perfect type of day 3 running back that just has worked in the last few years in these drafts. Like he is a guy that is a willing blocker and maybe even more than a willing blocker. Like he engages in those things, man. And so excited to see him in that sense. I think he has more upside as a pass catcher than people give him credit for. I think he's really, really nice through his breaks. I'm excited to see Kamryn Vital in this Harbaugh offense. And it may not be year 1, but I have a lot of, I think very highly of Kamryn Vital long-term.
I'm with you, but I feel like it will be year 1.
You think it'll be year 1?
I had another 6. Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be. I would expect him to be the starter as a rookie. I had him as my other 6th round pick if I didn't count the Seahawks corners as twice. I just think
Gus Edwards' experience in that Baltimore run game with that coming over to Los Angeles, like. I mean, obviously J.K. Dobbins does as well when he's been healthy. Like, I think those connections are going to lead to them playing early. Neither of them have long-term assets put into them, though. So I still think Kamryn Vital is going to be a long-term starter for Los Angeles. I just don't know if it'll be this year.
So my 7th round pick, I just realized I went with all corners, but it is my favorite position.
You love the position, man.
Hey, what can I say? My 7th round pick, my favorite 7th round pick is going to be the Browns taking Miles Harden out of South Dakota. Really liked his film. He was an outside corner for South Dakota, but I think he'll probably play in the slot. He had, I thought, one of the best combine workouts as far as the individual drills. Also had some good times. 3.98 short shuttle is 93rd percentile. I think that really translates to his tape because his game is change of direction and man coverage, just really efficient movements, efficient like weight transfer when he's changing directions. And he competes his ass off in the run game. He is a little bit undersized, but he will just launch into a block. He is a ferocious tackler in the backfield. Watched a couple games of 2022 and then most of his 2023 tape, and I thought he really improved his tackling consistency. He's got the ball skills. He's able to locate the ball deep down the field with his back to the quarterback. Smart in zone coverage. I just think he's got so much going for him. A little bit undersized, and I think definitely going to be a slot corner. I know that Cleveland has a kind of a logjam in the secondary right now. They've got some talented corners there. So it might not be a year 1 thing for Miles Harden, but I think that was a really good starting caliber player that they got in the 7th round.
Yeah, when going to the 7th round, more so than any other day 3 spot, like I went with a guy that I just feel confident that he's going to hit in some role, whether it's on the defense, whether it's on special teams. I just feel confident that this guy's going to make the roster and he's going to contribute as a rookie. I went with safety out of Air Force, Trey Taylor to the Raiders. I think Taylor is quicker than he looks on than he tested this cycle. I think he's going to be able to move better. I think he could compete at that box safety role early on in his career, but like this kid puts so much effort and you can just see it on film. Like he's going to be a special teams ace. Like I would be shocked if this guy doesn't go out there and just be a special teams contributor from the jump. And as a 7th round pick, like that this kid's making the roster. Like I don't know if there's odds on that anywhere, but like this kid is going to make the Vegas roster, and I think he's going to be a really good special teams player early in his career. And I think he has a lot of higher upside as a safety than people think. But that box safety role is probably his best bet early on.
Yeah, I really like Trey Taylor. He had a field goal block or an extra point block in one of the games that I watched. I think it was Wyoming, maybe. But yeah, I always do that with like day 3 safeties and linebackers. I go through and make sure that they contribute on special teams because like you can't be a day 3 pick at one of those positions and not be a special teamer. Like you're not going to make the roster. Yeah, I like Trey Taylor. He's got a complete skill set. I don't know that I really see him as a deep safety.
Yeah.
Just as far as having the sideline to sideline speed, but in the box, great run defender, really good at playing the ball, and just a smart player overall. So I like that pick.
Yeah, so moving on to our last subject for these superlatives. It's a little bit more of a fun one, and you can get as bold as you want with this. It's your choice. But who is the player most likely to wear a gold jacket at the end of his career and make it into the Hall of Fame from this class, James?
So my gut was telling me to go with Marvin Harrison Jr., but I decided to be a little bit more bold and say a Marius Mims, tackle from Georgia that went to the Bengals at pick 18. You know, he falls to 18 because there is a risk. He's had a hard time staying healthy. He doesn't have a lot of tape out there, but the tape that he does have is excellent. There are just very few holes to pick in his game. He needs to speed up his reaction with inside counters, and that's about it. Like he doesn't lose to speed rushes. He doesn't lose to bull rushes. He's good in the run game. He's athletic. He's one of the biggest offensive tackles in NFL history. He has all the natural talent to be a Hall of Fame caliber tackle. I think that the injury obviously lowers the percentage, but I think just purely based on talent and skill and natural ability, I think Marius Mims stacks up with not only any tackle in this class, but any player in this class.
Yeah, I mean, this class is a hard one for this question. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get said by a lot of people. I think his dad being a Hall of Famer, it makes it a little bit harder for him because that's going to be a comparison he has from the jump, as well as it just being a tougher position to make the Hall of Fame at. A lot of talented players still waiting on their name to get called. Some people would say one of these quarterbacks in a stacked quarterback class. Again, tough position to make it in the Hall of Fame at unless you have elite caliber stats. I'm going to go with the guy, same position you did, earlier draft pick. I'm going to go Joe Alt, going to the Chargers. Alt is going to have the luxury of playing opposite of another young elite tackle in Rashawn Slater. That duo is going to get to play together for at least the next 5 years, and who knows how much longer. So having that already is going to make it to where Alt probably doesn't have to see number one edge rushers very often. Maybe they get put onto him and they switch sides. I think people would be shocked at how few top edge rushers actually move sides anymore. Like lots of them have their preferred side of the line and stick to it. And there's some guys that move, obviously. Myles Garrett will put himself over whoever he has to take over an advantage, obviously. But not all of them. And I think Joe Alt has a really solid chance to start his career with some really solid pressure, sacks type stats. And when it comes down to it for offensive linemen, like those type of things and accolades, like they matter more maybe than any other spot, just because it's harder to say, well, did you see how dominant he was like when you watched him? Like offensive line is just a more difficult spot to distinguish if stats are lying or not.
There aren't as many objective stats, really.
Yeah. So like it comes down to a lot of what the numbers are going to say. And I think Joe Alt is a guy that I think has the best chance to just have the best numbers of this class. So that if I had to put it all out there, my mortgage on the line on one of these guys getting a gold jacket, I'd put it on Joe Alt in the end.
Jim Harbaugh is also going to throw it 20 times a game, so he's going to get a lot of 89 PFF pass blocking grade, 0 sack, 1 pressure allowed performances. Those are going to stack up.
That's what I'm saying. And he already doesn't have to be – like he's probably going to get to play on the right side. I can't imagine they move Slater. So they're probably going to put Alt on the right side. Like it's just adding up for him just to have very boosted numbers in his career. And at tackle, I just think he has a really great shot. It's never easy to make the Hall of Fame. Not at all saying it'll be an easy ride for him. But if I had to pick a guy, it's definitely Joe Alt.
Makes a lot of sense.
But hey, this has been 2024 NFL Draft Superlatives. Let us know if there's any players that fit these categories that we just forgot, that you guys are just banging the table for in the comments. Make sure you tell us which players we're just completely wrong on and why Joe Alt and why Marius Mims will never touch a gold jacket in their life. Let us know in the comments below. This has been the Football Room. We will be back again next week to talk more NFL football.